Okay. Camera's going here. I'm going to turn off the lights just so you can see that. All right, what you have in front of you. This is a picture of a gas and/or an electric meter. Now, obviously, different housing, different cities will have different mechanics for these objects. This is how they keep track of your usage of certain things. Could be gas, could be water, could be electricity. And so this is kind of an actual like dial itself. It's not, doesn't have the old school like clock dials. This is actually has an actual mechanical dial on the inside that's dialing up. As this thing reaches up to 10, obviously it's dialing the next number up. This reaches to 10, it dials the next number up, and it just carries, and you get the idea. It's super easy. So now what they do is, for the electric company or gas, what they do is they come to the side of your house. It has to be accessible for your home itself. I know we've been talking about purchasing homes, but now you have to deal with the stuff that's around it. This has to be accessible. If the actual technician or the person that's actually checking it, if they can't get to that object, maybe there's a tree in the way, maybe there's a dog guarding the backyard where that item is actually found, they can't check it, they charge you a fee. So that's something you need to be aware of. They have to have direct access to that object. For most houses in Garner, they put it like on the side of your house, like right next to the street, so they can just, I'm betting they can probably see it from the side of the street itself. What they do is they rattle off the number, and then they would charge you the difference for the next month. So if this was 9765.18, and I'm ignoring the dial. How they read off this dial, it isn't quite to 4 yet, so they would actually read it as a 3. It rounds up to it rounds up later on. For right now, it hasn't hit 4, so it's at 3 currently. And then what they would do is maybe the next month, you're at 9772.18. Now what they're going to do is they're going to subtract, and that'll be your usage for the month. And maybe they charge you per usage, and that'll be a certain fee. Now you didn't use a lot, but maybe they're charging you, $15.35 per unit. Well, now you did use a lot. Now your electricity bill is really high because maybe you ran the air conditioner the whole time. That type of thing. So if I actually subtract these, so I'm gonna have to borrow. From the 8, making this a 7. This is a 10. 10 minus 3 is 7. 7 minus 8, I can't do it, so I'm gonna have to borrow from the 1. That's a 17 minus 8. That's 9. 0 minus 1 can't do it. That's a 2. I'll make that a 1 and a 10. That's 10 minus 1 is 9. 1 minus 5, I can't do it. I'm gonna borrow, making this a 6. That's 11 minus 5 is 6. 6 minus 6 is 0. 0, 0. So you use 6 units. Right? 6.997 units. Well, if you know what your price is, what they charge you, you multiply 6.997, and that's what you pay per month for that usage. And they would tell you what that fee is. Now, I can tell you right now, fees for electricity and gas, they constantly change. They do, depending on the time of year. They have peak hours, so they know during the summer they're going to charge you more for electricity because of air conditioning units. It could, in the winter, they might charge you more for gas for heating your home. They have things that they do. It's kind of in the area. That's why it's dangerous when only one company controls like all of your gas or all of the electricity in the area. You're starting to see that like in Clear Lake, where Alliant Energy is starting to like figure out that they're the monopoly in Clear Lake. They're the sole provider of energy, and they're jacking up prices. We have wind farms, right? We have all these windmills. And they're jacking up the price of electricity like through the roof for people because they know no one is there to compete. If they say, well, I'm not going to go with Alliant, there's no one else to provide you energy in this area. It's kind of a dangerous situation. But 1535 times 6.997, that was a $107 bill that day. Or that month, I guess. Okay. Now, if you're on a payment plan, because you can do that for electricity, you'd be charged the same amount for like 6 months. After 6 months, they figure out what your average is, and then they just change your bill. So like during the summer, your bill could maybe be lowered, because maybe you're not using electricity a lot, maybe you're not home a lot during the summer. Or during the winter, you use a lot of electricity, so that next 6 months will be higher in pay. So they constantly adjust. That's what we're on right now, because I don't like the fact that if we have a peak month, I don't want to pay the entire bill. right? I'd rather be an average over all of them. It actually saves me money in the long run in case there's like a really like hot month or a really cold month where I have to run electricity like constantly. So it's one of those things like that's just something I did because I kind of looked at the numbers we were getting. But does everyone feel comfortable with like that type of dial? Now, that's a very simple dial, right? When we get to the next one, we get to the next dial. Okay. Now, oh, that's terrible. There, way better. All right. This is a more traditional one for this area. They've been updating these, so like if you see a technician at your house replacing these, they went from the old school dials to like other types of dials now. And how you actually read this is cubic feet, so it's measuring, I think this is gas, I believe, now, for this meter, how you actually read it is you read off like what number you're actually at without, you don't round up to the next number. So you have to look at like where the dials are going. So this one has arrows. You can see that little arrow. In fact, I'm going to zoom in on that so you can see that a little bit better. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so got a little blurry, but you get the idea. So this dial is going this way. So it's going towards the one. So did I hit 1 yet? So your first number you read off is 0. That's how you read that dial. The next dial, this one is going this direction. They go opposites, they alternate. So did I hit 2 yet? No, so it's 1. So it already went past 1, I haven't hit 2 yet. This one, it's going this direction again, it's alternating every other. It already went past 1, so it's 1, it hasn't hit 2 yet, and the last dial is at 0, like perfectly 0. All right, so then what you read is that's the usage you did, 110. That's how you read it. Okay. It doesn't reset at the end of the month. They would still do the same situation where they subtract from last month to this month. Now the reason why they went to these dials, these like kind of older school dials, it's because they were like foolproof and you couldn't like get inside the box and tinker with them to make it look like you're using less energy than you do. Because the gears only go one direction and you couldn't like roll the dial back. That's why on these like boxes, they actually have padlocks. So you can't go back because they're going alternate directions and there's teeth that bite. So this one's going this way, this one's going this way, as you can tell. As this one's rotating, this one's going down, so they're kind of going the same direction. And you can't go back up because it affects all the other ones and it breaks the teeth off. So they know if you've been actually tampering with it. It's a pretty clever system that they came up with. They used this for years. I mean, this was like 50s and on. Like they really haven't changed that system. It was kind of a cool system. Now they're going to the digital dial because you can't mess with the digital stuff. So they've been finally slowly upgrading it. But it's pretty clever the way they did that. But yeah, that's how you read it. When you get people that read meters, meter readers, they pay a ton of money from like the electric company and gas company. Like I have a buddy that does it for Alliant Energy. He gets paid way too much money to just do what I just did for you. Like that's what he does all day. He just goes from house to house and writes down numbers. He gets paid probably more than me. So it's terrifying. And he didn't need a college education to do it. So, but yeah, so it's kind of a skill if you want to know that. Now, let's go to the next one. All right, so the next dial, same exact idea. It shows you the arrows they're turning. So as you can tell, that one is at 0, this one's at 2, this one's at 5, it hasn't made quite it to 6 yet, and this one's at 1, it hasn't quite made it to 2. You always count the number you're past, not what you're going towards. And then you rattle those off. So here's an example. This is one that was in your textbook. They showed kind of how you can go from one to the other, like what the dials would look like. So as you can tell, the first one's a 5, that's a 2, 7, and 4. And the next month, it was at 5, 2, 7, 4, and now you went to 7 now. So it's the idea is that, actually those didn't even move, did they? Oh, they did. They had a 4 and a 5 dial. Oh, I see what they did. The 5 dial, the last dial on it is kind of like the decimal point. That's usually kind of what they do. But they do have a difference in dials, 4 versus 5. But yeah, so it could be more accurate if you want to have the 5 dial or more. Digital dials, I think, God, what do they go up to now? 6 or 7 like actual digits, I think now, so they can get super accurate. See exactly how much you're using. especially in like water. Like water is one of those things you don't really think about. They don't charge you a lot. I think my average bill for water in Garner is like $30. We don't use a lot of water. That's even when I'm like in the summer and I'm like kind of watering the lawn and whatnot. I don't use a lot. But they tell you how much they're charging you for like the usage, and they have a dial that they kind of look at like how much you're actually using. That's why they want you to use like low flow like spouts, like the actual like attachments to your sinks and like and your showers, because it restricts the water usage. So you actually like are subconsciously using less water, which is actually a clever thing. Using like high efficiency washers and dryers help save on water and electricity like big time, because they use less of them. A low flow toilet where it uses like less water to actually flush is actually a good thing. It does save you a lot of money in the long run. But like in our town, like we don't really deal with it. Like water doesn't cost a lot. If you go to like New York City and like bigger cities, like in California, they restrict water usage. Like you can only use like electricity certain hours of the day sometimes when there's peak heat hours, because they have blackouts. Or they have restricted water usage in like the lower counties in like Texas and like the Gulf area when they're having flooding, because they need to restrict water usage. So because they have to, it's contaminated, they have to like go through the water plants and like boil the water basically again. It's like when a city's water tower actually like runs out of water, you can't use water for a while, because the water tower is supplying water that's already been like basically filtered correctly through your water waste containment facilities. So it's actually been filtered correctly, and so like when water's out of your water tower, you're not getting clean water anymore. So you have to like boil it. I think Missouri was the last time I heard they had to do that for a while. They ran out of water out of their tower. We had a very similar situation once where we had a water main break under Lang Street at the corner up here, and they're like getting low on water. So we luckily didn't have to deal with that. So it was close, I heard though. All right, questions on any of the dials or any of the weird stuff that you're gonna have to deal with when you actually own a home? It's kind of a weird subject, right? We went from like mortgages to like this stuff, but it's something that, like, if you rent, you never deal with this. You deal with paying rent and maybe the electricity. You don't really deal with water or anything like that unless your landlord makes you pay for the water. It's like one of those weird things, you really just never think about it. You just pay the bill and kind of move on, or you put it on an auto payment and you never really look back. It's one of those weird things, you just gotta think about that. Things that you're gonna have to pay for. That's why they always have that's why when we talked about, the renter's rule, that, 1 week's pay of rent is what you should be paying, like 1 week's salary, because you still have to pay for water, electricity, internet, cell phones, car payments. Like they have this understanding, like you need to use it for other things. You have to have food and heating and stuff. So, but yeah, that was what I wanted to talk about today. We're gonna do more of these dials probably tomorrow. We're probably gonna look at an in-class assignment tomorrow. I kind of warned you we're gonna have another assignment this week. We only had one, the page 8791. We're gonna probably look at an in-class assignment tomorrow where I'm gonna put a bunch of dials on the board, and you're gonna have to tell me what the meter reading is. Does that make sense? And then maybe the last problem we'll do is where you have to like calculate like what you're paying for your usage. Where I give you, what you're paying per unit, and you'll have to figure out what the total is. We have to subtract. But we'll do a couple practice problems before that. Questions on tomorrow? Okay, that's it for today. I want to keep it nice and light for you, because we just did a bunch of stuff the last couple days. So, all right, there you go. Homework we have due tomorrow. That's page 89. The